Hey guys, it's Mrs. Countryman, and we are going to do the Ratification and Bill of Rights Assessment reteach right now. This would be the test that you guys took on November 16th, right before the Thanksgiving holiday. So if you're trying to earn credit back for that test, this is the reteach you need to listen to. So one of the things you guys seemed to struggle with the most was the difference between a Federalist and an Anti-Federalist, and then their reasons for ratifying or not wanting to ratify the new Constitution. And I apologize that this image isn't the best of quality, but it, combined with the one on the next slide, I think should give you a pretty good explanation and overview of what you might be missing. So let's go back and remember the Federalist first, because we've been talking a lot this week about Federalists. This should come back pretty quickly, remembering that they are advocating to go ahead and sign or ratify the new Constitution that James Madison has written, because this document favors a strong federal government, which just means a strong national government. They wrote the Federalist Papers, which were essays that they sent all throughout the country trying to convince people that they were correct and that the new Constitution was the best plan for the country. They decided that they did not think a Bill of Rights would be necessary because of the 7 principles that James Madison incorporated into the Constitution. They thought that that made it perfectly strong enough and protected our rights just fine. The Anti-Federalist disagreed with the Federalist on all of those statements. They did not want to sign or ratify the Constitution because they preferred a weaker central government. They wanted the states to have more power and more rights, and they also decided that the Constitution did not adequately, in their opinion, protect people's individual rights, and they would like to see a Bill of Rights added in order to ensure that no tyrant ever came and took away our rights. So, of course, as we know, things always end in a compromise, and ratification was achieved only after the Federalists promised to add a Bill of Rights to the Constitution, and that's what we know of today as our first 10 amendments. So continuing on about our Federalist and our Anti-Federalist, I thought this graphic did a really nice job of reminding us who our Federalists and Anti-Federalists were really supporting, and then, of course, their leaders. So on the left, the red side, we have the Federalists. Remember, they're supporting a strong national government. Mostly the wealthy class is supporting them. So these would be the people further to the north. Their leaders are Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay. You're going to see George Washington listed there too. Remember, this is before their political parties. So this is just in terms of thinking strong central government and wanting the Constitution. The Anti-Federalists, the blue side, want a stronger state government. They want the Bill of Rights added. They are more supported by the middle class or the lower class, which was more in the South. Their leaders were Thomas Jefferson, Patrick Henry, George Mason, and Richard Henry Lee. So now that we know that a Bill of Rights was added and the first 10 amendments were added to the Constitution, the Founding Fathers also needed to set up a procedure for adding new amendments beyond those first 10. So they came up with the amendment process, and there are 2 basic ways that an amendment can get passed by our country. So you're going to notice on the left we have step 1, blank or blank, and step 2, blank or blank. So that's just what I'm going to read through right now. So step 1, we have to have 2/3 of both the houses of Congress agree we need the Constitution. So 2/3 of the Senate and 2/3 of the House of Representatives. Or, and the more rare situation, a constitutional convention can be called by 2/3 of all 50 states. Once one of those things has happened, then we go to step 2, which means we either need 3/4 of all 50 state legislatures or 3/4 of the state constitutional conventions to also agree that we need a new amendment. So there's a whole bunch of fractions in this, and you might see questions where you see the actual numbers 2-3 and 3-4, and sometimes they even write it out where it says 2/3 in words and 3/4 in words. But anytime you're seeing anything about 2/3 plus 3/4, chances are they're going to be saying something about amending the Constitution. So if both of these steps are achieved, then we can add a new amendment to the Constitution. Currently, we have 27 amendments that have been added out of hundreds and hundreds that have been proposed. The Founding Fathers wanted to make the amendment process pretty difficult because we don't want just any old amendment being added all the time. All right, last but not least, let's specifically talk about the Bill of Rights that the Anti-Federalists had added to the Constitution. You know, we had a few questions on our test over a specific Bill of Rights amendment or two, so I'm just going to go through them real quick one more time. They're all here, they're all in your notes. So, number 1, remember we taught that as RAPS. So this is the freedom of religion, assembly, press, petition, and speech. So I just read them backwards of what is written on the slide, but you can see that's RAPS. Remember that freedom of the press was on our test specifically, and that's the freedom to be able to write or publish freely what our opinions are. Number 2, right to bear arms. Number 3, we do not have to quarter soldiers anymore. Number 4, protects us against unreasonable searches and seizures of our property. Amendment number 5 protects all accused criminals. This is basically when we hear people on TV shows saying, I plead the 5th, this is their right to remain silent. They do not have to self-incriminate, which means they do not have to admit they are guilty, innocent until proven guilty. Amendment 6, we have the right to a speedy and fair trial. Number 7, in that trial, we are allowed to have a jury of our community peers present, rather than a judge deciding if we are guilty or not. Number 8, no excessive bail or cruel or unusual punishment is allowed. Number 9, no right shall be taken away from us that is not listed here in the Bill of Rights, which basically means we have a whole lot more rights than that are listed in the Bill of Rights. This is not all of them. And then number 10 is the principle of federalism. Powers that are not given, oops, sorry for the bell, guys. Powers not given to the federal government are reserved to the states. I would really highly recommend going back to that Bill of Rights paper in your journal, to the website at the top that has the hand signals if you are struggling with remembering which amendment is which.